Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the football podcast, the Riverside Roundup, and we've got special guest. I say special guest, I mean he's really secret co-host, but you know, that's another subject for another day. We've got Paul, we've got myself, and we've got Stu, all talking football. What's been going on, of which there's a lot. What's to come, of which there's a lot. And I once again try to beat the jock, or in this case, jocks, and with interesting results. If you are checking us out on YouTube and you're already a subscriber, then get a friend or a family member to subscribe. It's a huge help. And if you're an audio listener, you can also subscribe on audio, SoundCloud, iTunes, and the same rules apply. If you're already subscribing, tell someone else to do it. So here we go. This is CookieCast, the Riverside Roundup. Ooh. So, obviously we've got to get the early joke in that, you know, it looks like an amalgamation of a wrestling podcast and a beer podcast and a possible other podcast. And that other podcast would be Paul.
Welcome along, everyone. It's the trip down Teesside for the Riverside Roundup episode.
Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah. So we'll have our what was weekly dive into the tremendous world of Teesside-based Middlesbrough things, or football related and whatnot, and we'll throw in a few bits and pieces of other football news as well. Fantastic.
In answer to the question, episode 12. Which obviously I knew off the top of my hat and definitely didn't look it up. For you YouTube watchers, you'll notice that we've absolutely got a special guest this week, and there is absolutely no connection to that special guest getting new audio equipment that they wanted to try out. For you audio listeners, obviously we'd like to introduce Stuart Woodmansey of Getting Over and Pursuit of Hoppiness fame, here to talk football, the balls with the feet. Eagle-eared amongst you will note that we missed a week. We promised a week and we missed a week. Now, that's two hands up right there. That's all me. Because I decided to go and get the CookieCast mascot on said day of supposed recording. I went to pick up the mascot, and it was just too much to fit in. You know, the big foam head thing. So that's all on me, listeners and watchers. I'll take the full brunt on that one. But that was last week, and I do believe we need to talk this week, or in some cases, 2 weeks ago. So, kind of 2 weeks worth of our first segment this fortnight in football. Paul and/or Stu, what's been going on in the world of football in the last couple of weeks?
Well, as was discussed on several WhatsApp groups and whatnot earlier, the main thing that's been going on in football is World Cup qualifiers. So obviously we're on the international break currently.
Indeed.
And as such, there was no Middlesbrough game last week or at the weekend. But there are games coming up over the course of the Easter break, as the YouTube watchers will be able to see, based over my right shoulder, left shoulder as you're looking at it.
It's both, isn't it? It's your right and our left.
Something like that. It is. We're very close to Good Friday, so we've got Good Friday games and Easter Monday games. But it's currently the back end of the World Cup qualifiers. So as we speak, England are playing Poland in their World Cup qualifier, and unless it's changed in the 5 minutes since I last looked, they are currently 1-0 up.
Really?
But other than the World Cup qualifiers, there has been some what can only be described as incredible scorelines that have happened in the world of football. So I think Japan had a World Cup qualifier against. I've forgotten who they played off the top of my head.
They were playing away at the world footballing force that is Mongolia.
Mongolia. There we go. Yes.
Another team name that.
I'll let you take on the mantle slightly further, Stu.
So, yeah, I mean, we should have really started with the fact that England had the healthy 5-0 win, which prompted the discussion. That was a decent win.
Oh yeah, of course.
And then it popped up an article of basically anything you can do, Japan can apparently do almost 3 times better, having won 14-0. That's right. Don't adjust your speakers. 14. Amongst that, there were 8 different goal scorers. One of them was an own goal, and there was. I mean, it's a bit of a travesty, really, among 14 goals, but one person managed a hat trick. That was it. Out of 14,
that was going to be my point. That incredibly, there was only one hat trick scored.
I mean,
so,
it just absolutely smacks of an absolute lack of effort to me. That. Or not.
I mean, at that point, it feels a little bit like they maybe didn't send much of a team, if a team at all, because 14 goals. How many goals is that per, or how many minutes per goal? 9.
Less than 9.
I was good. Well, I got 9, and I was like, no, it can't be, because it has to be. Yeah.
I think it's about 7.5 minutes a goal, roughly.
Bless them. Did they get a participation trophy?
I mean, they'd be lucky if they got plus their home at that rate, to be honest. At least they were playing at home. They didn't have far to go. Imagine having to fly halfway around the world and just had your pants pulled down on national TV in 2 different countries at least.
Wow.
I'm trying to find the best thing about it was that wasn't the most ridiculous score. So there was another game that contained 14 goals.
Was it a draw?
It just so happened to be a 7. It was a 7-7 draw.
Yeah.
And I think I can't find it now, but it's annoying, which is annoying me. But I'm pretty sure. I want to say it was in like the Belarus League or something similar. But yeah, 7 apiece. And I seem to remember reading on a tweet about it was that at half time it was only 1-2.
Oh, right. So that's that thing where, depending whether you're a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of guy, you can say both teams are as good or as bad as each other. Who was the side that was up at half time, going into the locker room like, yeah, we've got this one. We've got this, lads. Come on, this is a done deal.
It's annoying because I now can't find it, and it's gonna haunt me It's going to haunt me for the rest of my days.
Somewhere in over the 7 billion people, 7 billion plus people on this planet, somebody was like, do you know what? Sod it, I'm putting 50 quid on a 7-7 draw. And then I like, new house, you say? Yeah.
There will always be someone. There will always be that crazy bastard who's back to the 7-7 draw. Here we go. Right. So I take it back. It was Tunisia that the game took place in.
Been there.
The Tunisian Football Federation have opened an investigation into this game from their second tier. So it was played between, I'm going to absolutely butcher these, AS Mandia and Ez Radez. Oh, for people watching on YouTube. Oh no! I pressed the top of the screen.
For the people watching on YouTube, it wasn't sponsored by Miss and Mount.
Here we go. AS Marmez.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's go with that.
Of course it won't. But yeah, there you go. 7-7. 7-7 draw. So there were goals scored in the 82nd, 89th, 91st and 93rd minutes.
The investigation, I'm assuming, is into some sort of match fixing as opposed to why did you pull your goalies in the second half?
When I was looking for today's Beat the Jock question, it nearly ended up being about goalies, so that would have been interesting. I had a. I won't go into it. We'll come to it later. I'm worried I've lowballed this one because I was like, that's because part of me is like, I want to do closest to the pin challenge on it, but another part of me is like, well, let's face it, Paul will know the answer, so I'm gonna be, I'll do Stu gets closest to the pin, Paul gets absolute bang on or nothing. And then, if Stu gets close and Paul doesn't get it nailed on, Stu wins.
I've not got one right for a couple of weeks, I don't think.
You got last one's right. So, you got the last one right. Well, but
playing the bit. It's like, in the logical sense of it.
Just going to go through my pack of cards. Oh, there it is. There's the victim card. I just.
If memory serves me correctly, it was basically Andy started telling a story and Paul pretty much finished it by saying, I read that in 442 last week.
I just so happen to know exactly the question you're going to ask. How many times has Paul ever uttered that phrase? Okay, so besides crazy scores all over the world, anything else?
So, besides that, the only other thing that... So off the top of my head, I think we've got a bit of a lag issue. But obviously World Cup qualification. So Ireland are also in the European section for the World Cup qualifiers and decided the best thing for their World Cup qualification hopes was to lose at home to the world superpower that is Luxembourg.
No one man will be happy about that. And it's his birthday today. So
there's a YouTuber that goes under the pseudonym of the Irish guy who has a channel on HITC Sport who put together a pretty scathing assessment of the game and the current state of the Irish FA. Was not happy, let's put it that way.
Is that just not Seamus Coleman's online pseudonym? Because did you see the interviews after the game? There was the manager who came out way later than anybody else and had to follow Seamus Coleman, just ripping them all a new one, basically. So that I'm pretty like he must be captain to have done the interview, but then to come out to absolutely lay waste to your team, didn't mince his words at all, and then for the manager to come out and have to try and sort of patch it all back together was a bit like, yeah, not good, not good.
Anything else from the last week or two?
Something I found which has only come out today, so it's quite recent, but with the way of the world has been for the last 12 months or so, there's obviously going to be studies into how, different effects, whether it's health, whether it's like mental, all the rest of it. One thing that they've study has been done into is if the lack of crowds has affected home results. If you were to ask any single person that's ever been to football that question, they would just go, yeah, it will. If there's no home crowd, because it's always built big into it. But no, apparently not. So this is taken from The Guardian. Their science correspondent, Natalie Grover, I'm assuming no relation to the Muppet, but it says research carried out during COVID spectator bans suggests support is not a key factor in match results. They've long investigated the home advantage phenomenon, implicating crowd support, referee bias, psychological effects of expectations, travel fatigue, and all like a number of other factors. Apparently, it's rubbish. So like I don't know what these people are trying to do, but I mean it's an interesting point. But I think like football's kind of like needing people to come back. Football's like needing the influx of money from the fans attending the home games again. Stuff like that. Yeah, it might be interesting, but like surely it's killing the game a little bit.
So what are you doing what's the end game here?
Yeah, I don't really like
that reeks of maybe we don't need fans back in.
I just, I suppose every other business up and down, well, the country, the world, whatever, in the last 12 months has gone, oh, do you know what? We can maybe do this, like, working from home business a bit more often. So, like, what are they going to do? Like, every third home game, they'll just have it on the internet via Zoom for people to watch, to implicate the office working bit that everybody else has to do. I'm not sure. It was just a straight... at first, I thought, when I picked it up and I read it, and I was like, yeah, that's quite an interesting point. And then I was like, oh, but actually, I have the information if they need it, if they really need it. But like, do they need it to be in the public domain now that essentially they've said that there's people who will have had season tickets for their entire life and will be much older than I am right now, and reading that they'll be like, have I just wasted all that money for like all them years? I just think it's a bit of another kick in the balls. So yeah, so thanks very much, Guardian science people, but maybe have a little think next time.
I mean, it's that thing, and it's probably not. I would say now's not the time to release a story like that. I would say once you've opened the doors and let fans back in, releasing the story after and basically saying, I know everyone's happy to get back to the football. I know everybody's enjoying the live aspect and all this, that, and the other. But did you know that at that point in time we did this study, we did this scientific analysis, and in actual fact, it doesn't actually make a difference. And then people could go, oh right, that's nice. Let me get back to watching the game now.
And the other side as well is that like everybody, all of the results that they've based it on beforehand are just in a normal situation. It's not based on what everybody's had to go through for the last year and then come back to that. So fine, compare it to what came before, but I also feel like they need to also compare it to what comes after. Yeah. So like you say, release it, when fans are back, but or even wait another year and then see what your statistics come out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree that I don't feel that that's been handled very well, and it'd be interesting to see, for want of a better way of putting it, what's driven the need for that article. whether it's just like oh, by the way, I know everybody's eager to get back to the football, but or whether there's a bigger agenda. I imagine that there are people out there that would happily see. I remember the first games, the behind closed doors games, like in Italy and stuff, where there was like football going on, and it was this thing, and I remember it being on the TV in this room, and even I was like, it's weird. It's really weird, because you'd see people score goals, players would score goals, and they'd go do like a lap, and then, or, oh yeah, it's great, to complete silence, and it was weird. And I have very, I remember that well from that time, and it was just the weirdest thing. So
they did balance it out by saying that in a league situation it's not as problematic, because obviously throughout the season teams will exchange home advantage, but it would be more problematic in like a tournament structure like the FA Cup or something like that. But even so, keep just. But I also then enjoyed the glorious irony of the fact that at the end of every Guardian article, they also ask if you want to give them a little bit of money towards the newspaper.
Oh yeah. I always enjoy dipping into the Guardian now and then to get the. Do you want to give us some money? It's like, no, not really.
Anyway, yeah, that was the other thing I found. I thought it was kind of interesting, but we'll see. I'd like to see them revisit that in sort of 12 months or so, once after people get back, like we said.
Yeah. Anything else from?
I feel like.
Oh, go on.
I feel like it's gone like just on the sort of the thing that Andy was saying there. I'm almost gone like the complete opposite way now. Where if I was like watching stuff on like YouTube or anything like that. Case in point was Sky Sports had put up a clip of the strangest handball decisions in the Premier League history or something like that. And I was watching it, and then it obviously sort of flashes up with these different handballs that had happened in games. And then the majority of them were obviously with, like, from before this season and the end of last season, where obviously there's supporters in the stand. And I was like, oh, that looks weird. There's fans in the stadium. And because we've got to the point now where we've been seeing it for that long with no supporters there, that I've kind of got used to football stadiums just being empty now. So it's now just going to be good to go the opposite way again. So when we get fans back in there, it's going to be like, ooh, this is nice. This I'd forgotten what it was like to be in an atmosphere. And what you'll probably notice as well is home stadiums, you don't really tend to get as much chanting or singing, things like that. That's more of like an away setting thing. That's more like what your away supporters will do. But I think you'll probably see more of that coming when people are allowed back in stadiums, because they'll probably want to make more of a spectacle, more of a, for want of a better phrase, song and dance about it, because it's something they've not been able to do for that long.
Yeah,
that they'll want to actually sort of, throw off their inhibitions and chant for their favourite team and stuff like that. So it'll just be when fans are allowed back in whether that be in full stadiums or like half capacity or 10th capacity or whatever they end up bringing it back in, it'll be nice to see. So,
anything else from the last couple of weeks, news-wise?
Not from me.
Okay, so blow the dust off the book and go back. Now, we might need good memories for this. Now, I do obviously jest. It was merely 2 weeks ago, but life's, in the words of Ferris Bueller, life moves pretty fast. So we might have forgotten some of the predictions from there was only 2 games to predict, and I totted it all up, and so Normally, with a couple of weeks break, I wouldn't overly dwell on it, but I feel this one needs a little bit of dwelling. So, we've got Millwall versus Middlesbrough. Paul, do you want to tell us how that one went?
No.
Didn't think so. I mean,
it finished Millwall 1, Middlesbrough 0, and unfortunately the goal wasn't even scored by a Millwall player.
Me. Was it the original gangster by any chance? You know, OG.
Oh, I was just thinking.
Which plays the original gangster?
Well, there used to be a wrestler called New Jack, who I think was the original gangster in back in ECW. So.
Famously played
he
for
was
obviously.
Crazy
dog. Go on then. What happened?
Yes, it was wrong.
Okay, that's not what. Do you know what? That's almost the opposite of what we predicted. Because both you and I were like, absolutely, Middlesbrough have got this. We're gonna be looking at either a 1-0 or a 2-0. I mean, you know, at least they were scoring goals. Shall we move on to what some would say is a more interesting game? So, scores on the doors. Here's how this works. Neither me or Paul got anywhere near a correct score because it was a 0-1 and a 0-2. Also, we only predicted Middlesbrough players to score, and although that would have been the right answer, it doesn't work that way. So, bear that in mind because at the moment we're 0-0. Leicester City versus my boys, Man United. So here's the thing. Because we predicted goals, so goals were to be had. You predicted a certain number of goals, and I predicted a certain number of goals, and I predicted a certain team to win, and you didn't feel strongly one way or the other. And what was the verdict of that game?
So, this game actually turned out a little different to how I first predicted it. I believe, I'll just double check it, but I believe it finished 3-1 to Leicester.
It did. I can tell you that for a fact. So, do you know who scored the 4 goals in this game?
I know that Iheanacho scored 1. I think, did Martial score United's goal?
No. I'm surprised you don't know who scored the United goal.
Rashford.
Oh, if only. So, the reason I'm going down this route is Iheanacho, in fact, scored not 1 but 2 goals, and Tielemans, maybe, is that how that's? Is that
Yuri Tielemans?
Okay, so I was in the ballpark. Scored the other for Leicester. The goal for Man United was scored by Greenwood. So, Paul predicted a 1-1 draw. That's not the situation. 1-1 did not happen. And I, the brain donor that I am, decided United have got this, but not that much because they're not that great these days. So just a 1-0 for United. So no surprises. 0-0. on the scores there. However, this is where things change ever so slightly, because when you take no points out of the scores, all you've got left is a slither of hope that maybe, just maybe, you manage to pick 2 goal scorers and manage to take 2 points out of that game. So Paul correctly said that the boy Nacho, as I've got written down here, is going to score. And is this for Man United? Oh, that's right, Greenwood. Greenwood score. So 2 points there, Paul, and that wins the week with 2-0. Congratulations to you. Obviously, my stern word I had with myself lasted all of a week. It's consistency. It's my biggest issue. I'm just like, I've got it under control now. I've clawed it back. It'll be fine. And then, another week, another nil point. Now then, we had a little break. Everything was fine. We had a little break. So we're back. And what we're back with is not 1, not 2. It's 4. 4 games to predict. Our glorious... Let's face it. Come on. Let's not be around the bush. Soon to be co-host, Mr. Stuart Woodmansey, is here to also offer up his predictions for these games and what games we have for you. The way this system works, when I get it right, that is we predict Middlesbrough games. We then like to look forward to the future and think, what might Middlesbrough face coming down the... I was about to say down the pipe, let's say down the line. What have Middlesbrough got to come? So we'd like to predict their next opponent's current game. That's how we end up with 4 games between now and the next time we sit down to record. So, if you start thinking, why the hell are you boys talking about Barnsley? There's method in this here madness. So, gentlemen, I invite you to tell me what AFC Bournemouth are going to be doing versus the mighty Middlesbrough Football Club. Who would like to take this one away?
Has Stu got some predictions written down?
Yep, I'm all locked and loaded, ready to go.
In that case, I will let him have at it.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to have to do this to you, Paul, right off the bat.
He's in the room.
But yeah, I know. But Middlesbrough are also away at a team that have been on an absolute tear, goal scoring wise, for the last few weeks. So I'm going for Bournemouth 2, Middlesbrough 0.
Oh, he's done him. He's absolutely done him.
Yeah, but it's going to get worse because I'm
going to put
Solanke. No. I'm going to put Solanke for one because why not? But the bit that makes it worse is that Jack Wilshere's probably going to score as well.
Jack Wilshere.
Okay.
People, English press love to hype up an English player, don't they? He was the worst of the lot. Everyone lost their shit over him, and he was absolutely terrible. But yeah, he'll definitely score.
Paul, what have you got for me?
So, whilst I agree, Stu's prediction is probably spot on for me. We never do well down at Bournemouth. We've had a terrible record there the last times we played them. Off the top of my head, in the last 4 or 5 times we've gone down there, I think we've scored once and conceded at least 3 every time we've played. They're now managed full-time by Jonathan Woodgate, who was obviously in charge of Borough last season. So he's been put in charge until the end of the season. I've got a sneaking suspicion, though, we might just be able to bag a point. So I'm not going massively optimistic, but I'm going for us to break the hoodoo somewhat and bag ourselves a draw. So I've gone for 1-1.
Okay. Goal scorers.
I think he scored in the first game earlier this season, so I'll go for Dan Juma again. Now, if he does score, that's the one where you'll look on Sky Sports and not be able to see his name, because they don't put him down as Dan Juma. It's like Gurneveld or something like that. And for the Borough goal, I will go for... Howson.
Bless you.
So, this is the point in time where I really wish I hadn't have written my prediction down before listening to everything you boys have said and hadn't put down a 1-0 Middlesbrough win with Tavernier to score. Yeah, okay, cool, let's move on. Watford versus Sheffield Wednesday is our next game to predict. Let's see if I've actually managed to get even in the vicinity. Honestly, I was scrolling through. I put a score down, and I was scrolling through looking for a goal scorer, and I saw a name, and I was like, if you're not putting that name down to score goals, what are you doing with your life? So, I presume Mr. Paul Williams will be deferring to your good stealth, Stu. So, do you want to have a crack at Watford versus Sheffield Wednesday?
Okay. So, again, much like Bournemouth, Watford are another team seemingly in the goals again last few weeks. So, I've gone big, especially because Sheff Wednesday have, aside from the last result, are in the bottom half, clinging on, kind of not doing so great. So, I've gone for a Watford 4-1 win.
Wow.
And goal scorers, I'm going for Watford, Sema, or Sema, depending on your preference. Will Hughes, and 2 for Chalobah. The Sheff Wednesday goal scorer, I've gone for Jordan Rhodes because he's, again, one of them annoying gits who just scores against everybody, and even when he's crap for your own team at a certain time. Isn't that right, Paul?
Hey, he did all right at the Borough. He was, for the sort of half a season that he was there, he got a fair amount of goals. Never once scored at the Riverside for the Borough, but he managed to score when he was away from home all the time.
Maybe it was some kind of allergy. Paul, Watford versus Sheffield Wednesday.
I like Stu's thinking here. I think it could be a thumping home win. I'll go same goal difference, but I'll go 3-0.
Wow. Now I'm thinking I didn't go big enough on this one. Okay, go. Goal scorers.
I think Andre Gray's got himself back amongst the goals recently, so I'll go for him to get 2. And that Sema guy, that Ken Sema, does seem to have popped up a couple of weeks in the last couple of weeks. So I'll go for him, please.
Okay, so we're all on the same page that Watford are going to absolutely smash this one. I went small in hindsight. I went with a 1-0. Now, whilst looking through possible people who might score my 1 goal, I fell upon a name. Now, Paul's going to tell me that he doesn't even play for Watford anymore, and it's like, come on, whatever. But if you're not picking Success to score your goal...
As soon as you said it, I knew you were picking Isaac's Success.
I mean...
Knew it.
I mean...
Let me check.
I mean... he wasn't listed as being on loan or anything like that. I was like, if you're not picking success, then you're not going to get success, are you?
He is listed as still at Watford.
Yay! And has been injured for 6 months.
Yeah, I'll just give you a piece from his Wikipedia article, Andy. On July 1st, 2016, Success agreed a 5-year deal with Watford in a record transfer fee, estimated around £12.5 million. Success scored once in 19 appearances in the 16-17 season.
Well, he's going to change that. He's going to change that this week. Oh, shit. Well, whatever.
Can you add that specific scorer to your double? Because then your odds are going to be... That'll be the house price that you're after before.
Exactly. It's going to come as no surprise to anybody who follows the way we do this system that the next game in question is going to be Middlesbrough versus one of the two teams I just mentioned. And that team, in fact, is Watford again. So, I've got Middlesbrough versus Watford, and I presume we're going to be talking to Mr. Stuart Woodmansey first to find out what he thinks is going to be the score in this game.
Man, I feel bad for coming on and sounding like I'm sticking the knife in twice. But I have given you a goal this time, so I'm going to go for Middlesbrough 1, Watford 2. And for the Borough, I will go for Balassi. And for Watford, I will go for Gosling and the man Seamer, whichever, again.
Okay, Paul?
We're an annoying team. And we always seem to do better against the better teams. So I'll go for another optimistic 1-1 draw.
Goal scorers.
Cabano for Borough. And do you know what? A Sam Morsey own goal for Watford.
That is a big shout. Do you get double points for OG predictions?
Do you know what? We probably should.
Do you know why that's funny? Because I've put Middlesbrough 2-0 on this one, and I've gone Paddy McNair and that's right, Morsey to score. So somehow somebody's going to get some points out of this if Morsey does score, because we like to cover the bases. At least look at it that way. So, still casting our eyes firmly to the horizon to see what Middlesbrough might face further down the line. I've got Luton Town versus the most Yorkshire place in the entire world that isn't York, Barnsley. Stu.
Quick side note, you've been to Barnsley before, Andy?
No.
I mean, you're not missing much, but have been a couple of times for the football, and it's. Do you know what? As far as getting to a ground and put it up there, it's one of the easier grounds to get to from York. Door to door in less than 40 minutes. Beautiful. You park on a big hill just round the back of the stadium, next to a leisure centre. Beautiful. That's all.
I'm waiting for the punchline on this, and I feel like I might be waiting some time.
No, we went, and it was a cold January, day, I suppose, for an FA Cup game, and went into a pub that specifically said no away colours, so I had to keep my jacket zipped as firmly up to the top as I possibly could to avoid a savage beating. Getting, glassed with a pint of
Baby Sham?
whatever the local bitter is or something, I suppose.
Stu. Luton Town versus Barnsley.
Yeah, two teams that I have personally a little bit of dislike for based on their previous history with my own Hull City. Barnsley are one of them teams where I feel like you should beat them every time you play them, but yet they're just really annoying, and that doesn't happen. And they're having a really good run this season as well. Like, looked them up thinking, they'll be bottom to mid-table tops. No, 5th. So I was a bit like, but then they are away. So because of my dislike for both teams, I couldn't bring myself to pick a winner. So I picked 1-1.
I thought you were going to utterly cop out and go for the 0-0 then. Didn't have to, so you wouldn't have to pick any goal scorers.
That's my favourite.
It crossed my mind, but then I thought, well, points. So if somebody scores, I'm going to miss out. So, although my choices may still mean that I miss out, obviously, but we'll see. I've gone for Cornick for Luton and Woodrow for Barnsley.
Interesting choice, that's true. Interesting. Paul.
Hang on. I'm trying to do the bets at the same time. Barnsley. It's just one of those that, let's be honest, apologies to any Luton and Barnsley fans listening or watching. It's one of those games where, for want of a better phrase, who gives a flying about this game? Barnsley are the slightly better team. I'll go for them to win 2-1.
Scorers.
I'll go for James Collins for Luton.
Mm-hmm.
For Barnsley, I'll go for a double from, and I don't want to mispronounce this guy's name, so I'll just spell it. But it's Dike. I believe it is pronounced DK.
Yeah.
I believe it's pronounced bouquet. So,
he is massive. Saw a picture of him. Saw like a clip of him playing against someone when he first signed, because they signed him from, I think it was Orlando City in the MLS. He is huge. He is absolutely massive. So yeah, DK for 2, please.
Me and Stu have very similar thoughts on this game because we've both gone for a 1-1. I picked Adebayo for Luton to score, and I went with Woodrow as well. So there's that. Now then, are we talking the pennies now? Are we talking the monies?
Yeah, boy. Hang on, right, I've got them on, so I will just refer back. Right, so in the Bournemouth Middlesbrough game and Watford Sheffield Wednesday games, so we had Stu with a Bournemouth 2-0 and Watford 4-1 prediction. Just a small return of 233-1 for Stu on that one.
Love it.
I had Middlesbrough. No, I did not have Middlesbrough 1-0. That would be mental. Andrew Cook with the Bournemouth 0, Middlesbrough 1 and Watford 1, Sheffield Wednesday 0 had a double of 45.75-1.
Interesting.
And I had the Bournemouth Middlesbrough 1-1 draw and Watford to beat Sheffield Wednesday 3-0, giving me a double of 59-1.
All interesting numbers right there.
Indeed. We then move on to Middlesbrough Watford and Luton versus Barnsley. And we have a double of 56-1 for Stu's 2-1 Watford and 1-1 Luton Barnsley. Andy, with his 2-0 Middlesbrough and 1-1 Luton Barnsley, gets a double of 89-1. And me, with my Middlesbrough Watford 1-1 draw and Barnsley to beat Luton 2-1, I have a double of 53-1.
All very respectable numbers.
It'll pay some bills.
This sound is the end of our predictions, but not the end of this podcast, because recently, or more recently, what we've been doing here at the Riverside Roundup podcast is Paul's head is that full of knowledge in the football world, amongst other things. You honestly, if anybody out there is going to a quiz of any kind and they need another person to sit in, get Paul on the Twitter, tell him a time and a place, maybe slip him a fiver, and you will be going home with prizes aplenty. No? Too much? Buy him a beer and, maybe a wanky one, and then sit him down in a corner.
It depends on the quiz is on.
Anything, literally anything. You'll be like, I'm not sure, but here's the absolute right answer. Here's the absolute right answer that you definitely need to win this quiz. We've been doing this thing where we've stolen the name. Why not? So we're doing Beat the Jock. Week in, week out, I attempt to get other people to send quiz questions in, because I'm really running out now. I've gone down a dark rabbit hole of the depths of the football internet. It's like the dark web, but so much worse. And I want people to send questions in so I can have a week off, because it's hard work. But as we have a guest, or as he's better known, soon to be co-host Stuart Woodmansey, I'm offering the quiz question out to everybody this week. So what we like to do here is it's one question. It's offered out to Paul, and in this instance Stu, and Paul gets the opportunity to answer that question. If he gets it right, yay, we've proven that Paul has all the knowledge in the world. If he gets it wrong, I get to spend 5 minutes of my life feeling ever so slightly smug. So there is an issue, because I have to try and find a question that is so ridiculously difficult that Paul wouldn't get it, and that is hard. So sometimes I go a little low, sometimes I maybe go a little high. Sometimes I ask really obscure questions about Championship Manager, and Paul's like, let me finish that question for you. This week, it's about a footballer that nobody's ever heard of. Chris who? Chris Ronald. Is that his name? Yeah, so Cristiano Ronaldo is our question this week. Now, I imagine immediately I'm probably lowballing, but I've got my fingers crossed. So, Paul and Stu, it took Cristiano Ronaldo how many games to score his first Champions League goal? Now, for Stu, I'll let you have a closest to the pin challenge, unless, of course, you know the answer. Paul, we'll see if you get a closest to the pin challenge when you give me the absolute right answer. So, again, for those of you listening at home, and if you want to play along, and if it gets the juices flowing for maybe trying to take on Paul in future weeks, the question is, it took Cristiano Ronaldo how many games to score his first Champions League goal?
I absolutely do not know the answer to this, and I'm hoping that it means just Champions League games, as in, oh, that's how many games did he play before? That's going to really throw it out. I feel like the fact it's even a question means it's probably higher than you'd think.
I can't possibly comment.
So it's purely a guess. 23.
Stuart Woodmansey has said 23 games. Paul. We should do Matt's ABV, higher or lower. Speaking of, I came up with an amazing device today. I just need, probably several millions to invest in it, and then I'll be Oh wait, no, that doesn't work, does it? I'll be 100 air. But I too have had the issue of the fridge being too full. So I was like, oh man, if only there was a way around this. Paul, I'm gonna have to press you, I'm afraid.
Well, I'm trying to work it out. So if United got to, because I'm trying to work out whether we would have scored it played for Lisbon or for played for Man United. So regardless, you can only play a maximum of 13 games if you get from the group stage through to the final each season. And obviously United didn't get to the final for the first 5 seasons he was there or something like that. So I'll go 50.
5-0.
No, 1-5.
1-5. 15. Okay, so in a closest to the pin challenge, Stu would be taking this week's Beat the Jock because he's only 4 out. The correct answer is 27 games it took before he scored his first goal.
Bloody hell.
Stu was right. That I was like, oh, we might be on something there, because Stu was like, the fact it's a question means it has to be high, and I was like, it does. So there we go. Another week in the book where I might be. So yeah, Stu absolutely takes a victory on this one. I mean, like I said, some people could say that Stu just beat the Jock. I can't comment, I'm afraid.
Does it count if it's not exact, though?
Well, let's put it this way. Tune in next week, because we've still got. I've still got a question just chilling on the back burner for Paul on tiny football stadiums. Let's see how close you can get on that one. Right, so we've done our first bit, the news. We've done our predictions. We've done Beat the Jock. It only leaves us any other business, gentlemen. Well, there we go.
It's not football related, but obviously, I suppose it is football related as such. Obviously, you can tell from the date on the calendar above me. We've hit that point in the UK where we're at the next stage of the easing of the lockdown regulations. So this week, as at time of recording, was the first week back of grassroots football. So within the space of this week, I will have played 2 games of football and a round of foot golf. So there you go, happy days. Get yourself back out there and get enjoying the fresh air and some activities again, I suppose.
Absolutely. Try not to break any fingers is what I would say on that one. So, without further ado, I will say get on the Twitter and get the hashtag make Stu the new co-host trending, and also while you're there getting that trending, you might as well send us a Beat the Jock question, because the well's running dry. I'd like to thank Stu for taking the time out to join us today. The sound quality was amazing, Stu. Not that means anything. Paul, always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to try and take down the titan of football knowledge. And this week, we can firmly say that food won. Wait, no, that's not it, is it? Anyway, as we try and work that one out, I'll let you gentlemen return to the wild. Thank you all for listening along, joining along, watching along, and until next week, I'm going to say bye. I'll see these guys later.
So there we go, what do you think to that? Another one done, another week gone, games in the bag, and lots of games to come. So that's good. Big thank you to Stu for joining us on this podcast, and a big thank you to you for listening or watching along. If you are watching us on YouTube, cool. And if you're a subscriber, then get somebody else to subscribe. Make that your good deed for the day. Audio listeners, you can also subscribe, SoundCloud, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you could pass on the good word to other people, that'd be amazing. So there we go. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then. Bye.